It's one of my dreams to work in online media. There's this saying that social media is our generation's cigarettes.
Facebook is just like big tobacco, pushing a product that they know is harmful to the health of young people.
I don't want to be a cigarette dealer though. While I hope that we can all get careers that we enjoy, for me enjoyment is not the only condition. I want to at least get to the end of my life and think that the world is not a worse off place than it was before I existed. So I started to get really worried about this whole cigarette saying and whether or not pursuing a career in social media was actually moral because of how addictive it is and how much of people's lives they're spending on it. For the past 3 months, I've been thinking about this topic pretty much daily because it's something I want to get to the bottom of. I even considered going into medicine if I decided that social media was not a good space. At least medicine unequivocally helps people. But my recent search has changed my view on online content entirely. Now I'm optimistic about it. I feel good about the impact that it can make on all of our lives. And I want to take you guys through that journey. When I first started thinking about the whole cigarette analogy, I started off pretty pessimistically. I was pretty convinced that social media was just a waste of time and that people spend hours on it a day that they could be spending getting better at skills or building deeper relationships. I didn't think it was natural for people to consume this much information and that all of this was just some modern harmful invention. In a way, I actually started thinking about online content like fast fashion, which I actually made an entire video about up here that you should check out. But I think of clothes as something artificial to human life. We could all walk around naked and it would be fine. Our lives would pretty much be the same. But within fashion, there are companies like Zara, which everyone knows are unsustainable, and then there's also Patagonia, who everyone champions as a green brand. But really, any type of clothing production still harms the earth. Patagonia even admitted in 2012 that anything we make, everything anyone makes, costs the planet more life than it gives back. So sure, some clothing brands are better than others, but there's still a net negative to the earth. This is kind of what I thought online content was at first. It was something completely artificial to human life, just something humans invented. And even though some content is educational or better than other content, it's still ultimately psychologically harmful to our lives. So this helped me get clarity on the question that I've really been trying to answer over the past 3 months, which is some form of consumption inherent to being human? In other words, are we always going to spend some portion of our lives consuming information instead of, working or spending time with other people? I thought maybe if consumption of information or entertainment was just something relatively recent in the last few centuries with technology like the printing press, the radio, that social media would be immoral and kind of an artificial addition to our lives. But if there's always been something from the beginning of time that people have consumed, then social media is just the new form of that, and it can be made better. I started looking into history and my thinking was pretty limited. The only forms of media consumption I could really think of were newspapers, pamphlets, books, more recently TV and radio. But this was unsatisfying because they all seemed like modern inventions to me still. They didn't answer my fundamental question, which is, are humans wired to always consume some form of information, or is it just a recent modern technology invention to make money or have influence and power over people, whatever reason? But then what really helped expand my thinking is when I brought this up to one of my college friends. We're both very interested in kind of the startup online space. She's more into Web3, I'm more into creator economy. But I told her about my dream to have a career in online media, but that for the last few weeks I've been really struggling with the question of, is this moral, or is it just an artificial thing distracting people from their lives? I walked her through basically the entire thought process I've told you guys, and she literally said this sentence that was so simple but so I can't believe I missed it. She said, people have been telling stories for thousands of years. And she was so right. I was stuck in just the past few centuries, but I missed that complete wiring in our brain. So then my thought process just got entirely opened up, and I started thinking about all the ways that people have been telling stories in the past. The biggest one is obviously oral storytelling. There are stories and legends that originated thousands of years ago that we still have records of. This is also the original parchment paper, hieroglyphics, religion in a lot of ways. Our ancestors have been telling stories for as long as humans have existed. So to me, this told me that it was all literally right in front of us. Storytelling is as ingrained into our brains as food or living in a community are. They're all part of the human experience, and I don't think you can convince me otherwise that storytelling isn't part of what it means to be human. If you do have a counter argument for this though, I would love to hear it in the comments. The misconception that I basically had was that, back to the cigarette analogy, I thought the cigarettes counted to all of social media, the algorithms, the content, but I think the cigarettes are just the addictive algorithms. Social media content itself is basically essential to our lives. Consuming other stories and sharing our own stories are literally just like a natural inherent condition of human life that I don't think we can ever get away from. They help us understand our own lives and other people's lives, know how to treat others. So to me, this answered the question that yes, we are wired to spend some portion of our lives consuming information. Online content is obviously the most widespread way we do that. And so I think labeling everything under the term of like online content or social media as like the new cigarettes is extremely limiting. So then what the cigarettes are referring to is obviously the social media algorithms that are designed to keep people hooked. These algorithms influence both the quality of content we consume daily and the volume of it. There's so much out there that it's very difficult to be intentional about what you consume, and especially the rise of TikTok in the past few years. The reason that TikTok has been so successful, part of the reason, is that it completely eliminates choice. There's no mental energy, you just have to open the app, it automatically shows you something, you scroll, and I've even noticed on YouTube that like half the time when I open the app on my phone, it automatically starts playing a short. Really what most content is just stories, and since stories are so essential to our lives, how we understand it and spend our time, obviously if we're letting some like artificial thing determine like such an essential part of like our human experience and how we spend our lives, it can be harmful because we're not the ones choosing what we interpret. But I just really hope that these algorithms don't reflect poorly on the content itself, especially the best of the best. See, I think the best online content that comes out of our time can and should be elevated to the same like prestige level or impact as art forms of the past, like music, movies, novels, legends, hieroglyphics in a way. Or maybe instead of like a single piece of online content, it's like a whole creator's portfolio, since it's kind of like a lower production cost. Because whether you like it or not, humans are wired, and it's honestly, in my opinion, part of the human experience to spend some portion of our lives consuming stories and information like this. And so if that's a given, if that's what our ancestors have been doing since literally like the beginning of our species, and social media is the most relevant way and easiest way to consume it, then why don't we consume the highest quality content possible and also the most innovative forms of it while we're in such an exciting time of change, instead of kind of just demonizing it and labeling it all as cigarettes. There's a difference between content like this, which is designed to keep your attention. Does it help you think better about your own or others' lives? Maybe, maybe not. It certainly pushes the limits, which is valuable. There's also a new movement on YouTube called the YouTube New Wave. This is a definition that I found on Reddit. YouTube New Wave is a film movement aiming to democratize storytelling by recognizing popular social media genres like vlogging as a respected medium of artistic expression on the same level as painting and literature. These are the creators. It's YouTubers like this who make kind of artsy and slow-paced videos. They're a little boring sometimes. They're certainly not optimized for the YouTube algorithm, although some of them still perform well. But all of them are thought-provoking, honest, and share a little bit of the creator's life that you can recognize your own life in. I like especially watching the college ones or the ones about like being in your 20s trying to figure out your life, because they help me process the stage I'm in and know that I'm not the only one kind of thinking these thoughts and going through this. In my opinion, this YouTube New Wave, these are the types of stories that will end up transcending the algorithm. The ones that make social media not inherently bad, that you can't label all of it under cigarettes. This spirit is what will outlast the current platforms that they're on, and honestly, be the stories that our time in history is remembered for. So I don't know how widespread this revolution will become. Maybe it's just up to us humans individually to be intentional about the content that we consume, have more choice in the matter, because we're gonna spend time consuming anyways. So let's make it beneficial to processing our own and others' lives. I honestly hope that there's some government intervention in the future with algorithms so that choice is not completely eliminated and we can spend our natural time that humans have always spent consuming other stories and sharing our own in a way that's beneficial and not just quick dopamine hits. But I hope over the past few minutes, as I've condensed my 3 months of thinking on the matter, that it's helped you realize that social media is not the entire problem, or I certainly don't think it has an inherent problem or it's inherently bad. I've come to switch my viewpoint that online content is not inherently bad to consume. As humans, since the beginning of time, our ancestors have been sharing stories through oral stories, religion, to help understand our lives. And social media is just the newest and most innovative form of that. I think we should embrace it, be more intentional, not let the algorithms influence everything, or at least have better algorithms. Because humans will always continue telling and consuming stories as long as we exist. So why not make them the best stories possible?